farming community stood up against another brutal farm murder. They're bundling them into the same kind of chaotic Black Lives Matter, Antifa type riots, and the riots we have in South Africa with the xenophobia and those kinds of things, and it's not the same thing. There was one police car that was overturned and set alight. Then they shook another vehicle who almost trampled a bunch of people because he was chasing down the street. Nobody saw these things because the media decided they're not going to show it. More than 3,000 people that pitched up in the middle of nowhere in this small town. The reason for that is the horrific manner in which this 21-year-old was murdered. He was basically brutally beaten, he was stabbed, he was tortured, and then he was hung from a pole. The police did nothing. They couldn't find the perpetrators, like usual, like in every case. When the farmer who he worked for decided that he's putting up a 50,000 rand reward for information to these people, they caught them within 2 days. They caught them with a bloody t-shirt. There was no way that they couldn't say it was them. They caught them with everything that points to them. So
where Brendin got killed, the first idea was, yeah, well, another farm murder, but really angered us. And that's what I said on Senekal on the podium. If it was that we didn't talk about this, if it was that we didn't warn about this, if it was that we didn't see this thing coming, maybe that was a bit easier. But we saw it coming, we reported it, we begged, and nothing happened. And that's the problem. This is the end of the road for us. We can't go on like this. We can't farm in an environment like this. We can't. It's just impossible. Losing more than R1 million per month and feeling the feel that nothing is done about it, or there's no real will about it. We asked a thorough investigation into this matter.
There are a few questions that we'll have to answer. I and Minister Dodo raised one. Who is the market here? Because you can't steal a R1 million stock and eat it. I don't think these guys are eating this meat. Who is the market? Two, who helps them to give them information? There is no operation without information. Three, what happens when these matters have been reported to the police? What happens? What do the police do? Four, what happens when some of these cases have been taken to court? Why 16 times and you still walk there? Why the other guy has been arrested 3 times, by the way? The other one. But he still walks there. So, is it the police or is it the system that we need to look at?
a lot of people have asked me why I don't report on South African news if I'm a South African. Why I report on American, UK, all the overseas news, but not my own countries. And this is why. So I'm not going to read this to you because it's Afrikaans, but I'm going to give you the background. So on a farm, I'm not gonna. It doesn't matter where it is. On a farm, there was a young farm manager, was brutally murdered, white, by two black men. They murdered him and then they hang him from a pole.
Things are rather tense here in the northeastern Free State, and you can sense it when you drive through these towns and when you engage with the farmers. Where we are now, things seems to polarize even further, with the EFF that has made some threats, and they say they are coming to Senekal on Friday. And of course, there are large numbers of farmers who also indicated that they would come, sympathizers of farmers and families of farmers from all over the country, like they did a week ago. And in this polarization, there seems to be one of two ways. Either it's going to escalate, and this road has all the potential to lead to severe conflict, or we need to move to the middle ground. And as farmers' organizations, all of our farmers' organizations are really working very hard to move more people into the middle ground and to ensure that there is a meaningful but also an action-orientated debate on how do we bring to a stop this terrible phenomenon of farm murders. It is true that black farmers are also suffering from these attacks, and that they are as vulnerable to crime, to stock theft, to land issues, and of course to murders as the white farmers are, although the numbers are not as high as on the white farms. On white farmers, there is a political element to it. It is all about the land debate too. It's also about political parties singing "Kill the farmer, kill the boer." It's also about the notion that land had been stolen and that there is somehow a justification for attacks on farms. And this makes farmers not only feeling very vulnerable, it also created a kind of a sense of mistrust in some of our systems. Last night, in a very wide debate amongst religious leaders, farmers leaders, leaders of our judicial system, it was said very straightforward that we need to restore the faith in the police. We need to restore the faith in the prosecuting authorities. And we need to restore more trust amongst different communities.
One big thing that has been said around here is that members of the South African Police Service are not clean. That's an allegation that has been raised here. Yes. That members of the South African Police Service are not clean on the things that are happening here. You have raised that.
Yes. Where Brendin got killed, the first idea was, yeah, well, another farm murder. But really angered us. And that's what I said on Senekal on the podium. If it was that we didn't talk about this, if it was that we didn't warn about this, if it was that we didn't see this thing coming, maybe that was a bit easier. But we saw it coming, we reported it, we begged, and nothing happened. And that's the problem. This is the end of the road for us. We can't go on like this. We can't farm in an environment like this. We can't. It's just impossible. Losing more than R1 million per month and feeling the feel that nothing is done about it, or there's no real will about it. We asked a thorough investigation into this matter.
Police arrested farmer for alleged role in violent Senekal protest. Now let me explain this violence to you. So the violence they are talking about here is a vehicle that basically almost ran over some other people. They then shake the vehicle, a couple of men. Then there was a bunch of people who pushed open the doors of the court and they ran in and they wanted to get to the cells where they could get hold of the perpetrators who horrifically killed this person, the person in question. And the police shot 2 shots in the air. Okay, so there were 2 gunshots. Now, all the UK, Australia, all the newspapers around the world are not fact-checking. They are going according to what the South African newspapers are saying, and they're saying that the farmers actually fired. That didn't happen. You can hear the one farmer saying, shoot them back, which also isn't right. Look, we are a very respectful nation towards the police. The police in this case, they're not for the people, they're only for some people. But let's get to the story. Johannesburg, a Free State farmer has been arrested in connection with Tuesday's violence outside the Senekal Magistrate Court. Take into consideration that to find this victim's murderer, the farmer had to put down 50,000 rand as a reward. But the police can very quickly find this farmer, who for some other reason, according to them, is a danger to everybody. Protesters stormed the courthouse where 2 men were appearing in connection with the murder of a farm manager, Brendin Horner. In a statement, police say the 52-year-old will be charged with malicious damage to property and public violence. Police say more arrests are imminent. Police Minister Becky Cele is calling for more arrests as it is clear the criminality that took place was a collective effort attempting to undermine the rule of law. Take into consideration that is our police minister. SA Police Service in the Free State province have arrested a 52-year-old farmer for his alleged role in the storming of a court building and torching of a police van. Oh, I forgot about that. They torched the police van. One police van. Reporting the Sunday Times. This is not the town I know, says pastor after violent protest in Senekal. Martin Celian says Tuesday's incident has shocked a community that until then coexisted peacefully. On Tuesday, police and farmers clashed in the small Free State town, where 2 suspects appeared in court for the gruesome murder of 21-year-old farm foreman Brendin Horner. Farmers erupted over brutal slayings in South Africa. The brutal torture and slaying of farmers has stoked fury on the streets of South Africa, where protesters have stormed a courthouse. Scenes of chaos have played out in South Africa, where furious farmers have taken to the streets after 2 brutal slayings that have sparked national outrage. Farmers with Boer Lives Matter banners stormed a South African court and fired shots as they tried to force their way into cells holding 2 murder suspects. A police riot van was also tipped over and set alight as thousands gathered outside the Senekal Magistrate Court in the Free State. 2 lies here. Total lies. Okay. Firstly, they didn't shoot. The police shot. That's the first thing. Second thing, it wasn't the riot vehicle. It was a normal bucky, truck, small little, whatever you want to call it, small little police van that they pulled over. They pushed around the riot truck, yes, but that's the riot truck that tried and attempted to drive over people. So pushing that around a little bit, you know, I get where they're coming from. It was there that 2 murder suspects, 32 and 44, were set to appear before a judge. They are accused of torturing and killing 21-year-old farm manager Brendin Horner, who was tied to a pole and tortured before being repeatedly stabbed and then strangled on remote farmland outside the town of BULLET on Friday. Now, people state that it is not his crimes of opinion, of opportunity, and it's theft, normal theft gone wrong, and that's the usual reporting that that the police does in South Africa, or do in South Africa, on things like this. So I would like to ask the question, how much money could a 21-year-old farm manager have on him while walking around in the field looking at the farm? So we're probably looking at what, 100, maybe 200. Let's look at it in US dollars. Let's look at it in US dollars. Let's say he had 50 US dollars in his bag. So he suffered this kind of death and that for 50 US dollars. But it's not about the money, like they say. Okay, so let's see what the Daily Mail in the UK has to say. Farmers with Boer Lives Matter banners storm South African court and fire shots as they try to force their way into cells holding 2 men accused of torturing and murdering a farm worker. Firstly, I'm very glad they don't refer to him as white, and they just keep it as a farm worker. Secondly, they could have done a little bit more in finding out that it wasn't the farmers that fired the shots, but it was the police. It's just the narrative that has now been changed a little bit. So you have 20 odd farmers and farm workers stating that the police shot, and you have a couple of police officers saying that the farmers shot. Okay, so yes, 3,000 demonstrators rallied in Senekal, Free State on Tuesday. Gilly Skeepers, who owns the farm where Horner was murdered, told Times Live he was so excited that day that he was working a year for us, and on that special day he died. His family is taking his death extremely hard. Agricultural strategist Dr. Jaco de Villiers has described the latest murder as part of a war against food production in the country and said that his murder was slaughter.